Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stluke'sonline.org.
In collaboration with Boise State Public Radio, the Community Library presents a new podcast, Sheep Stories. I'm host Vance Cunningham. Join me as we listen through the archives of the Trailing of the Sheep Festival to learn about the Scottish, Basque, and Peruvian immigrants foundational to the sheep herding industry over the past century. Hear their stories of traveling to Idaho and learning the language of the sheep. Find Sheep Stories wherever you get your podcasts and at boisestatepublicradio.org.
More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Cadet. On September 11th, 2001, our nation changed forever. And now, more than 20 years later, as we commemorate this day, it is important to remember not just the lives lost, but how our community came together in the aftermath, which is why this evening, Mission 43, a local nonprofit, will be hosting their annual 9/11 Miles of Remembrance Run. So joining us now to talk more are Dan McGurkin, Director of Mission 43, and Andy Johnson, Director of Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse. Thanks both of you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Gemma.
You're more than welcome. Dan, let me start the conversation with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about Mission 43 and what your organization does?
Yeah, so Mission 43 is an initiative of the J.A. and Catherine Albertson Family Foundation, and we are wholly focused on making Idaho the premier destination for life after the military. And that's for both veterans and their spouses. So we're passionate about the idea that veterans and their spouses and families are folks that are service oriented and likely going to serve and do good in their communities for their entire life. And we would love for them to come here and get the chance to support them doing that here for our communities here in Idaho.
And so, Andy, talk to us about Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse. What's your involvement and tell us a little bit more.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, the Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse is, well, it's relatively brand new. We're just finishing up our second year, first year really open to all of our members. So we're the headquarters for both Mission 43 and the Challenged Athletes Foundation of Idaho. Again, the Fieldhouse itself is also an initiative of the J&K Albertson Family Foundation. We're super grateful for that. But it really is a place, frankly, maybe one of the kind and world-class facility that's designed to bring the CAF athletes and Mission 43 athletes together and help them be stronger and more ready to enjoy all of the things that Idaho has to offer. And also at the core of it is about community. We know that doing hard things together, both in the gym and out in the outdoors, is a great way to develop friendships and strengthen our community.
And Andy, talk a little bit about why it's important that veterans have a place like the Fieldhouse.
Well, I'll speak from a personal experience, and as the director of the Fieldhouse, I'm a 22-year veteran of the United States Army and a veteran of combat in Iraq from 2004 2005. And, when I transitioned from the military, one of the things I missed the most was, number one, the community that my wife and I had with other Army families and soldiers. My wife's also a veteran. But also one of the things I appreciated the most about the Army and what I loved about it was doing really hard things that were also purpose-filled and mission-oriented. And the Fieldhouse is a place where that is brought to life every day for veterans in particular and for challenged athletes. So it's been a phenomenal place for me to really connect with other veterans and do hard things. And for those veterans to do the same thing. I have been lucky enough to make new friends here. And I know lots of the other folks that Dan and I both know and love here at the Fieldhouse have experienced the same thing.
And Dan, talk to us specifically about tonight's run. What can people expect, and can folks still sign up?
Yeah, so folks can still sign up. That you can register at the event itself as well. So our 9/11 Miles of Remembrance Run is from 5 to 8 in Ann Morrison Park. And, we can expect we'll have a few guest speakers, a flyover by the Idaho National Guard, and then about a 5K run, walk, stroller push, whatever is best or easiest for folks. And at the end, there'll be some chance to hang around and have some refreshments and reflect. We'll have a field of honor out there with 53 names of Idaho veterans that have perished in the global war on terror to honor their sacrifice. And it's really just a chance to remember two things. The first is the sacrifice of those individual and inherently really valuable human lives and American lives that we lost. And the other one being, the fact that they would probably tell us to be really intentional and enjoy the time we have here if they were able to, and to spend it together doing something like tonight's run, which is reflecting and recentering on what's important and doing it together as a community out here in Boise.
Dan, today marks 24 years since the events of 9/11, and there is an entire generation growing up without firsthand memories of that day. I mean, on the drive to school today, I was talking with my youngest about it being 9/11 today, and he said, "Yeah," he goes, "Mom, it was 10 years before I was even born," and it just kind of hit me in a new way, in the sense that it's like, yeah, you have no. I mean, he has, he's learned about it, right? But it's not like the rest of us who remember very vividly where we were, what we were doing, right? I mean, the events of that day. So why is it important that, Mission 43 and other organizations really continue to focus on this day?
Well, I can empathize with that on two parts. I was a platoon commander in the Marine Corps, and towards the end of my time being a platoon commander, before I moved on to another duty station, I'd started to receive Marines in my platoon that were born after 9/11, which was a really interesting experience for me as someone who 9/11 was an enormous moment in my own life. And I'm also the father to three young kids. And so I think a lot about, how am I going to educate my own kids about that event and what it meant to our country and our own personal lives and the, countless other lives that were affected by it. And I think that as we, 24 years this year, 25 years next year, as Andy and I are both veterans of the global war on terror, both in different seasons of our life now, it's making me think a lot about this event as an opportunity to teach and educate and reflect and pass on and share, the solemnity of this day, what it means, what it meant to ourselves and our families. So I think it's a great opportunity for that as well.
And Dan, before I let you guys go, I do want you to remind us again, when and where is the Remembrance Run, and the time?
Yeah, so 5 to 8 p.m. Out at Ann Morrison Park, and the parking will be somewhat limited, so we encourage folks to maybe show up a little bit early and walk on over. But we'll be there ready to go, and you can register same day, like I said. So if you're not registered yet and would still like to participate, you're able to do so.
And Andy, real quick, I'm curious about what it means when you are out there and you see so many members of the community show up for this particular event.
I will try not to get emotional, Gemma. It's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, I bet it is, right? To see that,
Yeah,
especially
it really
all of these
is,
years
and
later.
it's heartening to see. I think Dan's group, we've got 3,500 runners registered this year, which is our largest group ever, which feels pretty good. And just the depth and breadth of community representation out there, just little tiny kids in strollers, teenagers, their parents, grandparents. It really goes to the strength of the community in Boise and why this is such a special place to live. And I'm just grateful every day that, my wife and I found it and found this community at Mission 43 in the field house.
Yeah, and I'd offer
Well,
too, Gemma, from what I can
yeah.
tell, it's one of the largest same day remembrance events in the nation. So just an immense sense of pride that Idaho and our community here in Boise is leading from that front.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank both of you so much for the work that you do and for bringing attention to this as well. We've been talking with Dan McGurkin, Director of Mission 43, and Andy Johnson, Director of Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse, talking about the annual 9/11 Miles of Remembrance Run. It will take place tonight in downtown Boise and Morrison Park beginning at 5 p.m., and you can register at the event. You've been listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. I'm Gemma Gaudet.